Hello everybody and welcome to another lesson of the MLH Blender course. Now in this lesson we'll be diving a bit deeper into the field of animation. As you must have already known if you have watched the previous lessons, we have discussed the complete basics of animation, and in today's lesson we'll be diving a little bit more deeper into the field of animation. So before doing that, I want to discuss about our own Discord server, which already has over 500 members, and we have already hosted a competition actually for creating a model based on machinery. And we would provide different kind of services such as ask for help, creating custom models on request, and even post resources and different cheat sheets for the lessons that we basically upload on this channel. So yeah, check out that server. It will be a great thing for you. And yeah, now that is all. So let's just jump right into the Blender course. So yeah, coming into the Blender window, let me just give a quick recap for what we discussed in the previous lessons regarding the animation. So we discussed there about the feature of auto key. So for example, if I just try to add a keyframe right over here by pressing the G key, or I can press any key, then it will add a keyframe. So any type of rotation key, or I can try to rotate it, move it, it will add a keyframe. So let's just say that I press the G key to move it, but I don't really make any changes to the location, but I just click, so it just registers that keyframe. So now that keyframe has stored information regarding the location of this object. Now if I just move this object, move the timeline to, let's say, the 50th keyframe, and I just move this object to around here, and then I rotate it. Now what should happen? On the first glance, the thing that should happen is, first we store the information for the location in the first keyframe. Then the second keyframe we store the information for both the rotation and the location. So there should be a smooth transition from the original position in the 0th keyframe, in the first keyframe, and to the 50th keyframe. Now let's just play this animation and see what happens. Now you can already see the changes that happened. As you can see here, there's no effect on rotation, and the rotation is default picked up by Blender, which is for the last keyframe that we used. Now I can also showcase it. For example, if I go over here and rotate it over here, now as you can see here, now that is not the case. So I basically lied a bit. So as you can see here, the animation does change now. So what is happening is that the keyframe in the 50th frame has information regarding the rotation and the location. And the keyframe on the 80th frame also has the information regarding the rotation and the location. That's why there are two types of informations for the location. So basically we can call this R1 and we can call this R2. So Blender just creates a transition between those rotations. However, in the first scenario, there was no information regarding the rotation because you only pressed the G key to move it. So Blender didn't record any information regarding the rotation of the model. Only the information regarding the location was recorded. So there was no location recorded for the first keyframe. That's why it automatically took over the rotation of the 50th keyframe. Now I hope that I've explained this in quite detail, and I think that it may have helped you grasp the concept a little bit better. So yeah, another thing that I wanted to discuss is that, let me just delete all of these keyframes. Yeah. So another way to add keyframes is to basically first, let me just turn this off first. So what we can do is, first we can make the appropriate changes. Then we can press the I key to add the keyframe. Then let's say we go over to the 60th keyframe, and then we move it to move our object to here, and let's say rotate it to around like over here. Okay, and then we press the I key again. Now what happens is our starting position is right over here, and then it moves to over here, and then it also rotates. So there's also rotation happening on the cube. So what basically happened was that we first made changes in the first keyframe, and then we also made changes, for example, for the location and both the rotation in the 60th keyframe. And then we manually added the keyframe to record all that information. Previously, we did not need to do that. But the disadvantage for auto keying was that any changes that we made, for example, if you're working in a big project, and let's say we just wanted to move this cube around or aside for the time being, so we would just move it. But what would happen is that Blender would automatically add a keyframe. So in most scenarios, that is not what you would want. So that is where the manual keyframing comes in. So yeah, that is it for the animation in the timeline panel. Now, I just want to discuss a bit more about the graph editor, and that can be accessed from going over here and then going over here. Alternatively, you can also use the shortcut, which is shift plus F6. Well, honestly, I do not really use the shortcut. I just go over here and then I just click on it. But whatever works best for you is what you should go for. Now, before we go towards that, let me just add some keyframes. So we'll store the information for both the rotation and the location. So let's just say we have like this. So we have this nice animation just like so. Actually, let me move this a little bit closer to make it a bit faster, just like so. Yeah, as you can see. Now, before moving towards the graph editor to discuss about its features, one thing that you need to make sure is that you have the object selected. So yeah, we have the object selected. We can identify that because we have a orange outline on its boundary. So yeah, let's just move towards the graph editor. And now, as you can see here, there are a lot of things happening. There are a lot of curves, a lot of handles that you can play around with, and also a panel on the side. For now, I'll just tell you to ignore it. We won't be discussing about it in this lesson. We'll be learning about it in the future lessons. So what is going on? Let me just deselect everything in the graph editor. Remember that we learned about the axis in the first lesson, which was the x-axis denoted by the red color, y-axis denoted by the green color, and the z-axis denoted by the blue color. And we know that it is blue by this UI over here. Now, same trend follows in the graph editor. So we just select everything again. As you can see, the green line represents the changes made on the y-axis, and the red line represents the changes made in the x-axis, and the blue line represents the changes made in the z-axis. Now, you may have also noticed that there aren't just three types of curves. For example, as you would expect that for the x-axis there should be one red curve, for y-axis there should be one green curve, and for the z-axis there should be one blue curve. But that is not the case. We can see that there are unfortunately I cannot annotate right now, but you can see that there are two curves for each color. So there's this red curve, and there's another red curve. So there are two red curves, and there are two green curves and two blue curves, as you can see here. Now the thing is that in our keyframes we recorded the information for both the rotation and the location. So if we just open this menu, we can see that right now we have selected the curve for the location of the z-axis. So you could see that there are sub branches in the z-axis. So firstly, there is the location of the z-axis, and the second curve denotes the rotation of the z-axis. Similarly, for the x-axis, there is the location of the x-axis and the rotation of the x-axis. Yeah, the rotation of the x-axis. And same follows for the rotation, for the location of the y-axis and the rotation for the y-axis. So there are two sub-branches for each axis. That is what I want you to understand. Now, as you can see here, this animation starts off quite slow in the beginning, and it is the fastest in the middle, and it ends off slowly as well. So as you can see here, just like so. You can see a bit of a pattern even in the curve and even in the animation itself. So it starts off slow and it picks up a speed in the middle, and it is quite linear in the middle, and because it is a straight line, then in the end it starts to slow down once again. Now this pattern seems to be followed by every other graph. Somewhere there is this effect is much more extreme, and somewhere it is less extreme. That is because of the changes we made. It is based on completely solely that. So we can also change that. So for example, if we want to make it completely linear, so the speed is completely the same at every point, we can just press the T key and then press the linear. For that to take effect, we'll have to select every point in the graph editor, then press the T key and then select the linear key. Now all of that happens in a linear format, so the speed is the same at each point. Now there's also another thing called a the constant curve, which is basically makes changes instantly as the keyframe arrives at that point. Now there are other things as well. For example, the easing, the dynamic effects. So for example, if I go over to the Bezier again, and let's say I go over to circular, let's say, and now as you can see, it just starts off much more slower, but it is much more faster in the end. Now let's just try the exponential. So it exponentially increases the effect of the keyframe. As you can see, it starts off very slowly, but it exponentially reaches the point of the keyframe. Once again, we can try other effects as well. So we can try quadratic. As you can see, the effect is less now, but as you can see here, it starts off slow at the first, but it picks up a speed at the end, as you can see. Now there's also fun little things like the elastic, bounce, and back. Let's try the back one. For example, it will make it like so. So it will actually go above the points of the keyframe, but it will come back at the when it actually arrives at the keyframe, as you can see here. So kind of it just gives us that cool effect. Bounce, there's also bounce, so it bounces to the point, and the elastic as well. As you can see here, it just goes kind of crazy. Yeah. Now you can also create your custom ones. You do not have to follow these. That is why there are handles. Yeah, so for that just go to the Bezier curve. So for example, in the Bezier curve, you can see that there are handles where you can create your own custom ones, as you can see here. Let's say that we play around with some of these. Let's just make it completely constant, not constant, but let's just have some fun. Let's just change them accordingly. You can see already in the first keyframe, we can see some changes happening because we are changing the first keyframe. Let's just make it like so. Yeah, this looks cool. Let's just have fun, Yeah, now let's see what our animation looks like. As you can see, honestly, it looks quite amazing. You can see. So we just went from this simple animation to this amazing masterpiece that we just created. This custom, it just you see, it just goes completely in a circular pathway. Honestly, I just made this animation up. I didn't really expect it to go in a circular way, but things worked out for us. See how amazing that looks. Look at this. So yeah, that is it for the graph editor, and I hope that you had enjoyed learning in this lesson. And again, resources such as cheat sheets will be uploaded in our Discord server. We'll also be uploading exercises for each unit, for each unit, so you can practice your skills, and it will be kind of an assessment for your skills and for what you have learned. So yeah, I would say this has been a pretty fun one and a pretty short one. So yeah, that is pretty much it, and we'll meet in the next one. Take care.